It's certainly an honor to be able to present C. McKenzie Lewis III. Now, with a name like that, you'd think he came from an elite Eastern school, which he did, Princeton, but in Minnesota he's known as Mac Lewis. Mac, as many of you know, has really been involved in a lot of roles in the Minnesota emerging and early stage companies. He has been a CEO, a very successful CEO of Computer Network Technology, which he took from startup to grow to be a $80 million company, a market leader, and a public company. He has recently, after going through a number of other experience, as his wife says, Mac is back. He's now a CEO of Field Solutions, an early stage company. In the interim, he was involved as founder and principal of Sherpa Partners, which is a venture investment firm. And in addition to Search America, he's been a director of such successful public companies as Digital Biometrics, Zytec, and Showcase. I first met Mac back in the mid-90s when we belonged to a CEO forum that met monthly, CEOs of tech companies. At that time, Mac was chair of the Minnesota chapter of AEA, and I was chair of the Minnesota Software Association, both which are now part of the Minnesota High Tech Association. To give you a little history of kind of the company and Mac's involvement, I'm going to go through a number of stages which were very typical in the software industry, particularly those software companies that went through the dot-com explosion and bomb in the late 90s and early 2000. I had left position as CEO and president of and chairman of Serving Software, which was a public company that was the nation's largest healthcare scheduling company. We were acquired. I took what I thought was an early retirement. My wife tells me I failed that along the way, and I became an investor of an early stage company known as MedServ Link. One of the things I learned from my other experiences is that even though you may have experience running a successful company in your own right, when you get involved in the day-to-day, you sometimes have what we'd call rational exuberance. You kind of drink too much of your own Kool-Aid, and you need that third-party perspective, which Mac and two other outside directors provided. Like most companies, at the end of 2000, beginning of 2001, we had a kind of a come-to-Jesus situation where the technical sector really suffered. We had been, in the meantime, acquired and merged with a major company in Seattle, and we were going to hit another big home run. When things fell apart and that company was bought by Siemens, Mac represented our board and along with our CEO negotiated a buyback that was really certainly turned out was a heck of a deal for everybody, because 7 years later the company had grown and was bought in last December by Experian, which is the largest credit bureau company in the world. Search America provides a range of software as a services for financially clearing patients who are payment liability. And we have such customers as Hospital Corporation of America, Kaiser Permanente, Alina in Town, and so on. More specifically, Mac's involvement and his contribution to Search America are innumerable. He, first of all, we had a very young management team that Mac served as an advisor and a mentor for. He also, having his own experience, he advised and served as a source of contacts within the business community for financing, identifying financing alternatives, acquisitions, offerings, and that kind of thing. And then more to the day-to-day things, such things as executive comp plans, budgeting, business. And by the way, a lot of the things that I, as an outsider, as now an outsider director, come up with, Mac could confirm and kind of legitimatize things that made sense that the management team had to then go forward with. I think another thing I remember about Mac on the board meetings, because of his experience in development, finance, and services, and and sales and marketing, he was always able to ask the tough questions of our staff. And they all appreciated the kinds of insights he had from his own experiences. And another thing Mac was very good at is when things went right, he was always the first in line to congratulate the management team, and they were very appreciative of that. Another thing I remember about him as a director is Mac has the rare ability, after a lot of discussion, to kind of clear the air and succinctly state where we're at, what the pros and cons are of a strategic decision. So again, it's my pleasure to nominate him as an outstanding director. He, as I said, is a steady and important contributor to serving software over a sustained period. And as a result of it, Search America has become an important company in the market for better tools in healthcare. And now, as a part of Experience, Search America team is well positioned to be an even larger Minnesota-based employer and market leader for changes occurring in our healthcare system. So thank you, Mac.
Well, thank you all, and many thanks for this recognition. It's a pleasure to have been associated with Search America, led by John Haugo, who really took on the job of building the company, mentoring, along with the rest of the board, the management team, building the board directly, and bringing his experience to bear. Dan Johnson is CEO. Dan's, as we sit here on a plane from California, headed somewhere to Wisconsin and back. He sent an email that the plane was delayed. He thought he'd be late getting here. Hopefully he makes it. But Dan led a team that did a great job. Over 14 years, they've become what we are familiar with, which is an overnight success. It took a lot of hard work. Last week, Search America was recognized by Minnesota High Tech Association with a Techni Award, and the acquisition at the end of 2008 was remarkable, obviously in a very tough business climate and at an acquisition value that exceeded everybody's expectations. They did this because they created a new market in the revenue cycle of the healthcare industry, and they became the market leaders in it. They were respected and consulted and known by all the senior executives in the healthcare industry. But that's not the end of their story. They were acquired by Experian, who is interested in the Search America management team and interested in expanding their presence in the healthcare industry. They recognized, and we're all realizing, what a growth industry healthcare is, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view. But they are looking for Dan, who's grown into quite a mature and recognized leader in the industry, around as a core team around which they can build their presence in the healthcare industry. We're going to hear more from Dan and his management team. They're Minnesota-based, and we congratulate John and Dan on a very nice job. Speaking as a board member and executive in several companies, I'm worried about the incentives that are working in our business society. In our companies and in the financing sector, it's just not working, it's broken. As you know, I've been on several boards, some that have done well, some that haven't, and over 40 years experience in computers and data networking industry. One of the things I like about technology is, at some level, there's a basic integrity in the industry, ignoring the dot-com bust, if you like. But these companies win or lose in the marketplace. The long-term value of current products of technology companies is essentially zero. The technology changes fast, competition comes along, the companies either innovate and execute well, or they lose in the marketplace. If a company has good products, good marketing and sales, executes well, is adequately financed, it'll win. If competition does a better job, you lose. And this happens in a short cycle. Very little financial engineering going on here. You have to win in the marketplace. The rules are simple, it's hard work, and it takes sustained effort. In high tech, I've had the fun of watching people grow, watching new enterprises grow, and create long-term value. That's the way it should be, and those of us who are involved with companies like that wind up with a great deal of affection for the people, the companies, their industry, and the commitment and innovation that goes into those companies. But looking more generally, I've come to feel that our system isn't working that well. Our financial system, our market economy, our enterprises and job creation engines. In the late 1980s, I was running a public company, and I recall a book called Short-Term America. They were concerned about the emphasis on quarterly earnings, short-term results, and investors just looking at short-term PE ratios, all looking for quick returns. Bendix is a perfectly fine company, has been financially managed to reduce earnings, to produce good earnings results, PE ratios, and on the strength of their stock performance, were able to acquire Honeywell. They acquired Honeywell because they hadn't made any investment in R&D. They didn't have a product portfolio. They didn't have patent portfolio. Honeywell, which is invested in one of the world's leading research institutions, had all of that stuff, patents, products. They acquired Honeywell and immediately disbanded the R&D center, took the PhDs who were interested and put them into product engineering jobs, and Bendix is at it again. They managed their stock price for short-term results, but will that company be a long-term innovator and leader in the world markets that we all want to compete in? Will they create the jobs we want? Investment bankers, company managements, all have compensation and incentives tied to short-term results. High current compensations, not long-term, not tied to long-term enterprise value and enterprise success. In short, we've got a lot of people that are not acting like owners of the enterprise. Companies like Enron became hollow, without substance, and vehicles for stock manipulation till they crashed. Financial derivatives have even less underlying substance. The original role of the financial sector was to provide financing and to find investment capital for companies that could create value and jobs. That's not happening for emerging companies. It's harder than ever now for emergency companies to find financing, and IPOs, public offerings, just aren't happening. Established companies need to be run for the long term, investing in new, innovative products, building teams, and executing with shared, patient, long-term goals, management and shareholders acting like owners. We've had a wake-up call, but are we listening? In high-tech industries, I've enjoyed seeing companies grow, people grow, and value being created. Obviously, this happens in lots of other industries, and there are plenty of fine companies, as we know. Paradoxically, it seems to be the investors that drive this short-term, non-owner behavior. If investors aren't the owners, who is? Or who are? I hope to see our society start acting like owners. As board directors, we can carry this message. We need to invest in long-term America. Successful enterprises have many dimensions, any undertaking does. And thinking about these dimensions, I'm reminded of a book, or a passage I read in a book by Mark Halperin called Winter's Tale. He discusses the gates to the city. He notes in medieval times, cities had walls around them and gates to get in the city. In modern times, cities don't have walls, but they're still metaphorical and spiritual gates to come into the city. To fully enter and participate in a city, or for that matter, in any enterprise, you need to think about the many dimensions, not just financial dimensions, but the many dimensions of an enterprise. His quote is, "The east gate is that of acceptance of responsibility. South gate is that of desire to explore. West gate is that of devotion to beauty, and the north gate is that of selfless love." We need investors and leadership to treat our businesses as if they own them, to lead and operate for the long term, to have affection for those businesses. As in this vision of the gates to the city, we all need to bring an ownership commitment to the enterprise, a commitment to responsibility, exploration, which I think of as including innovation, adventure, and excellence, beauty, and love. Thank you.